What is up, Mordhau players and people who may have just stumbled onto the channel? I am Wolflaugh, and I will be ranking all of the Mordhau maps by by how good they are on a tier list. Not on Tier Maker, of course, because I am poor and don't want to actually sign up for that site because it's a fucking ripoff. But basically, the criteria that I have for ranking this is my own opinion and how fun it is really to play on it in Invasion, or really the main game mode for it. So, like, obviously, you're not going to be judging Highlands on Invasion because there is no Invasion. But, yeah, but before we get into it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and why not just turn on the notification bell to get updated when new videos from this idiot come out. But basically, we upload about 2 times a week, sometimes less, sometimes more. And I'd love to have you here. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitch. It's also the same name, Wolflaugh. But other than that, let's get down to business. So starting off with my least favorite map, I have them all organized here in alphabetical order. I have to go with Camp. It's the fucking worst map in the game, by far. It's horrible to play on. You feel like shit whenever you play on the both attacking and defending sides of the map. And you honestly feel like you want to die because half the time you're going to get your foot caught on part of a siege tower that you think you should be able to easily walk over. Now, there are some upsides to this map, and that's that the texture is very nice. And each camp is actually, very fun. It has some cool interactable bits, and also the horde mode's pretty fun. But you feel like shit on the defending side because you gotta camp the last objective, and you feel like shit on the attacking side because you're gonna get camped on the last objective when there's like 15 minutes left. Somehow they're still gonna pull out the win. It's so stupid. That's why I hate camp, by the way. It's garbage. Bad map. All right, let's get down to a map that I don't hate as much. And it's because it's boring, but it's not that bad. It's Highlands. It's a pretty good map in its own regard. Like when it was teased, and I saw this as border, I thought, oh cool, there's gonna be like a little hut that you can go in. Nope, turns out it's just Truce 2.0. Where's Truce? Hold up, it's just Truce 2.0. That's all it is, and it's very uninventive. If we're gonna be realistic, like it's the same thing as Truce, but they did it worse this time because like there's nothing really interesting about it. It's not in a cool city. No, it's just Truce, but in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, that's why it's in the E tier. Moving on to another E tier map, but it's slightly better because it was original. It's Truce. Now, this along with Arena were both pretty solid brawl maps, and I think they're still the two best non-original game brawl maps that we have. But like overall, they're nothing really inventive. This one especially, it's just people cheering at like a little tournament thing. Nothing much to say about it. It's a decent map. It's not bad. But moving on to a higher tier, we have Arena, the best non-original brawl map. Now this one, I love it. I love it to death because it's just a gladiator arena. There's nothing more to it. It's a gladiator arena, and I love Gladiator, the movie. I love like the concept. It's pretty cool. I think that it's a really cool map just because like you come out in these tunnels and these vomitoriums. There's also these pillars on the non-dual sides of the map. But yeah, honestly, it's just a good sort of feeling in Arena. It's better than Truce and Highlands, in my opinion. So that's why it's ranked higher. But moving on to the C tier, another standalone map. This is Crossroads. Now, Crossroads has a lot going for it. It has some pretty unique objectives, as in it's not sequential in its objective taking with Frontline, and it has pretty good invasion objectives. Like in Camp, the objectives made no fucking sense. Why would you ever use that tactic in war? But in Crossroads, it makes a lot of sense, actually. The king's putting on his armor, so obviously you're trying to get him to a safe area which is what you actually get to in the end if you ever get there. Basically, the king's putting on his armor, and the enemies are trying to break down the door, kill him. It makes a lot more sense than we go blow up things because we're not inventive. No, it's like, why would you ever use that tactic? It's so inefficient, just doesn't make sense. But yeah, enough ranting about camp. I'd like to talk about that map as soon as possible so my therapist doesn't get mad at me. But next is the map Tourney. Now, of the original 3 brawl maps, I consider them brawl maps because we use them for brawl game modes now. This was probably the weakest. I think that it could have been improved upon very easily. But I do think it's still a solid B tier. Like, everybody remembers those few ranked games they played in it. It's pretty inventive when you get inside, but nobody really ever does. All the fighting happens outside always. So it's pretty fun, but at the same time, it's nothing really special. But next though, we have a very good map, and that is Taiga. Taiga is sort of Crossroads, but better. Camp, but better as well. Because Taiga is interesting. Wow. They actually made the entirety of the map in camp in one objective. I know, it's hard to believe that. But yeah, Taiga is a good map because it kind of has a story behind it. It's kind of interesting in the sense that it's not a complete slog. It's not extremely uninventive. It's pretty good. Like, these are all very believable objectives to be doing. They're pretty similar to other objectives, but to be honest, I believe that, armies would be trying to do this kind of stuff. Like, trying to, when you're in front line, you're trying to burn the enemy's logs to prevent them from doing a siege or something. And when you're trying to kill all the foresters, which is, something you'd want to do if you're invading. But other than that, I think that Taiga is a very good map. Now Grad belongs in the B tier. Nothing really else to say. It's a good map. It's the weakest of all the siege maps, which include the next 3, what I consider to be mainline maps, which are the big maps. It's a pretty good map. It has some flaws, which all the siege maps do except for really one. But other than that, I think that the few flaws that it has really involves some of the frontline stuff. Because the invasion always seems pretty balanced. But, moving on to some really good maps, we got to Castello, the first map to break into A tier. And that is because it's an amazing siege map and it has amazing objectives. Like, obviously, there's a few things that I would change about it, like how much stuff you get caught on. It has that sort of camp-like problem. But at the same time, the objectives are just so fun. Like, you'd be pillaging a monastery in real life if you were invading. You would be trying to open that gate. And you would be trying to stop them from opening the gate because you will die if you do not stop them. I think that the objectives are very believable, and there's only really one game mode that you can ever think about. So it sort of has that as an advantage. But other than that, I think that Castello is a very good map. Castello or Castello, I don't care either way how you say it. I say Castello most of the time, actually, just not in this video because people are going to get mad. But I say Castello because I know a lot of Spanish. There's no other reason. And this sort of looks and feels like a Spanish map just because of if you look behind it, there's an ocean. So, yep. Besides that, the next map is the Pit. It is the second best and probably the most atmospheric map of the original trilogy of brawl maps. Now, the Pit is an amazing map because it's a different atmosphere compared to the northern style of Taiga, Grad, and Castello. Or really the Grad, Fetoria, Crossroads, Camp. They all feel like they're shot or like they're in the sort of middle of like Germany or France. You can tell the terrain. However, in the Pit, you feel like you're in the Middle East or Africa, Northern Africa, or like in the Sahara. It has a different vibe and atmosphere to it, and that's what I love about the Pit. And also the music just sort of makes that atmosphere grow on you. But other than that, I think that uh, the next map is undisputable in its dominance and beautifulness. I guess that's Contraband. You feel like every person who came into the game before we got Arena and Truce in Highlands, they remember those ranked days and those duel yards that were just all held on Contraband. Everything was a part of this map, and it was so dang fun because it was such a boring and bland map, but it was boring and bland in a good way. It had a sort of story to it. It wasn't like, oh, we do camp, we try to siege nearby town. Brrr. No, you feel like it's you versus this guy. There's a boat. There's like a sea, an ocean. There's only one way we're getting out of this, and that's on that boat. It can only hold one person, so we got to fight each other. It sort of had that fun, sort of atmospheric vibe to it, and that's what made it so good. But other than that, it was a pretty good map. Next up is Fetoria. Now, personally, this is my favorite map, but the reason I'm not putting it as the best map is because there's some fatal flaws. That's mostly involves how the original map was reworked and changed. The original map included... there were 3 objectives. Like, the first objective never changed. I mean, obviously, something changed about it because you didn't have a mortar anymore, but nothing really changed about it, if we're being realistic. However, the second and third objectives were swapped around, and those being the nobles and the townspeople. And now they make no dang sense. Why are the nobles in the town, and why are the townspeople in the keep? It makes no sense. Originally, it'd be the captain of the guard protecting the townspeople. You'd have the top player. You'd have 4 chances to get a roll. I mean, really, it'd just be three opportunities because usually the top player is gonna get a good roll or get a good noble, and then they're gonna dominate on that noble. But basically, the original was very good because they changed it so that the town guard guy was just put into one of the invasions of Grodd, but I just felt like it wasn't the same after it's changed. It didn't have the same sort of story building and like the same competence and logic that it did in the original, because you would have noblemen in the keep and you'd have townspeople in the town. That's just how cities are structured. You would not have it vice versa ever. There's no world where a self-respecting nobleman really goes down into the town. But other than that, I think that it's a perfect map just because it's a really good siege map. But let's go to the overall objectively undisputed champion of all maps, and that's Mountain Peak, because it is different. And it sort of has this brutal feeling, like you're trying to burn your fallen comrades. It has that Norse Viking feeling, that angry cold man feeling. That's what I think makes it so appealing and such a good map. It's so different from all the other maps. It makes you want to play it over and over because of how fun it is and how different it is compared to all the other maps. And I think that we can all agree that if we're going to take anything away from this video, it's that Mountain Peak is probably the best map in the game. Not everyone's favorite, but objectively, it is definitely the best. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you are new, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell. We post just about 2 times a week, maybe more, maybe less. But other than that, I will see you guys all next time. Bye.